mathematics professor once noticed that the kitchen sink in his home was leaking. He called a plumber, who came the next day, tightened a few screws, sealed the leak, and just like that, the sink was working perfectly again. The professor was delighted until he saw the bill. "This is 1/3 of my monthly salary," he shouted. Still, he paid it. The plumber shrugged and said, "I understand, Professor. Why don't you apply for a job with our company? You'd earn 3 times as much as a professor. Just remember, when you apply, tell them you only finished 7 years of elementary school. They don't like educated people." And so, the professor took the advice, got the job, and his life improved dramatically. All he had to do was tighten a screw here, seal a joint there, and his salary tripled. But one day, the plumbing company's board decided that every plumber had to complete evening classes up to the 8th grade. So the professor, now a plumber, had to attend as well. The first class was mathematics. To test the students, the teacher asked for the formula for the area of a circle. Naturally, he called on the professor. Confidently, the professor jumped up to the board, only to realize he had forgotten the formula. So, he began reasoning it out. He filled the board with integrals, differentials, and advanced formulas, but each time his calculation ended with the wrong result, minus pi r square. He didn't like the minus, so he tried again, and again, and again. Each time the minus appeared. Finally, frustrated and sweating, he turned around to the class. That's when he saw all the plumbers whispering to each other, "Switch the limits of the integral." They were all professors. A professor once traveled to Africa to live with a remote tribe. He spent years among them, teaching the wonders of science and mathematics. Over time, he became close friends with the chief and his wife, and life in the village was peaceful and happy. One day, however, the chief's wife gave birth to a white child. Word spread quickly, and the entire tribe was stunned. The chief pulled the professor aside and said quietly, "Look, you're the only white man we've ever seen around here. My wife just gave birth to a white child. It doesn't take much to figure out what happened." The professor shook his head and replied, "No, chief, you're mistaken. What we have here is what we in the civilized world call an albino. It's a perfectly natural occurrence. Look at that field over there. All the sheep are white except for one black one. Nature does this from time to time." The chief paused, thinking deeply. Finally, he said, "Professor, tell you what, you don't say anything more about that sheep, and I won't say anything more about the white kid." The easiest job I ever had was working at a funeral home. One day, a widow came in and asked if her husband could be dressed in a blue suit for the funeral. "He's in a black suit right now," she said, "but I'll pay anything to have him in blue." She even handed me a blank check. The next day, she saw her husband in a blue suit and thanked me. "I'm very satisfied with your service," she said. "Whatever the cost, it's worth it." I handed the blank check back and told her, "No need to pay. It was free of charge." She protested, "At least let me cover the cost of the blue suit." I smiled and said, "That won't be necessary, ma'am. Another client came in yesterday. Her husband was in a blue suit. I asked if she'd mind him being in black instead, and she said it was fine, so I just switched the heads." An elderly man goes to the doctor for a checkup. The doctor says, "You're in great shape for your age. What's your secret?" The man smiles. "I walk 5 miles every day and I've been happily married for 60 years. The doctor nods. "Impressive. And how's your memory?" The man replies, "Perfect. Never forget a thing." Just then, his wife bursts in and says, "Harold, you left the car running in the parking lot, with the door open and the dog inside." The man grins at the doctor. "See, I never forget where I leave my wife."